You don't need more time to win. You need more intention. Most people wait for the big moments to feel successful. Winners, they create victory in the smallest moments every single day. Here's a question. Are you running your day, or is your day running you? Written. And the first chapter is always the morning. The way you open that chapter defines the narrative of the hours that follow. Think about it. A rushed, distracted, chaotic morning often bleeds into the rest of the day. You spill your coffee, you're late to a meeting, you miss the chance to prepare yourself mentally, and before you know it, the entire day feels like it is working against you. But contrast that with mornings where you rise with clarity, intention, and structure. Those days carry an entirely different energy. The truth is, mornings are not just the start of a day, they are the foundation of winning. If you can master the morning, you position yourself to master everything that follows. Winning the morning is not about perfection or about creating some rigid schedule that turns you into a machine. It is about making choices, small, intentional choices that give you control before the world has the chance to take it from you. The world is noisy, demanding, and full of distractions. Notifications, deadlines, conversations, responsibilities, everything begins competing for your attention the moment you step into the day. And if you don't claim that first piece of the day for yourself, you hand over your focus to the demands of others. Winning the morning is a way of saying, before the world has me, I have me. Before I react, I choose how to act. Before I get lost in demands, I anchor myself in purpose. Think of high performers in any field. Athletes, leaders, creators, innovators. Their mornings are rarely random. They are built with intention because they know that their energy, focus, and decisions are sharpest when protected early on. And what makes this powerful is that it doesn't require grand actions. Sometimes it's as simple as waking up a little earlier, not to check emails, not to scroll through your phone, but to ground yourself. Maybe it's moving your body, maybe it's sitting in silence, maybe it's writing down the 3 most important things you want to achieve. The specific routine matters less than the principle. Start in ownership, not in reaction.
When you win the morning, you build momentum. Momentum is like a current in a river. It carries you. A strong start creates a sense of accomplishment that fuels the rest of the day. If the first thing you do is something meaningful, no matter how small, you've already scored a win before most people even begin. It could be making your bed with care, a gesture that tells your mind, I've completed something. It could be exercising, telling your body, I am strong enough for the challenges ahead. It could be reading something nourishing instead of consuming empty noise, signaling to yourself that you are feeding your mind, not just distracting it. Each of these is not just an action, but a signal, a message to yourself about who you are and how you intend to show up.
What's profound about mornings is their silence. The world hasn't woken up yet. And there's an unusual kind of clarity in those hours. That silence is an invitation. It invites you to align with what matters most before chaos arrives. If you wait until the middle of the day to create clarity, chances are you're already too deep into reaction. Mornings offer you a blank slate. They whisper, here is your chance to write how today will unfold. Not by controlling every external event, but by shaping how you show up to them. And that difference is what defines winners. Winners don't always have better circumstances, but they always create better preparation. Winning the morning also reshapes your relationship with time. Most people live as if the day happens to them, but when you own the start of the day, you start to see time differently. You no longer measure life in hours that slip away. You measure it in intentional moments you have created. Even if the day throws unexpected challenges, you're steadier because you've already carved out your foundation. You've built a mindset that says, I begin with intention, therefore I carry intention. This is why some people seem unshakable despite difficulties. They're not lucky, they're prepared.
There is also a psychological truth to this idea. When you begin with discipline, your brain experiences a sense of achievement, releasing chemicals that reinforce positivity and drive. That first win sparks the desire for another, and another, creating a chain of victories. On the other hand, when the first thing you do is hit the snooze button or reach for your phone, you teach your brain to begin with avoidance or distraction. That small act becomes a pattern, and that pattern shapes your day. Winning the morning is not just about the hours, it's about the story you tell yourself about who you are.
Consider how different it feels to walk into your first meeting, or class, or task already grounded in clarity, compared to stumbling and half-prepared, scattered, and reactive. The first path radiates confidence, the second radiates uncertainty. People can feel the difference in you. And when you win the morning consistently, People begin to experience you as someone who is reliable, composed, and intentional. You're no longer just reacting to the environment, you're leading it. The greatest victories in life are often invisible. Nobody sees you wake up earlier. Nobody sees you choosing water instead of reaching for another distraction. Nobody sees you writing down your goals in silence. But these unseen victories are the ones that accumulate. They compound until they shape the way you live, the way you work, and the way you show up for others. Winning the morning is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It's the difference between drifting through life and directing it.
Every day we are faced with an endless stream of choices, demands and distractions. Emails pile up, notifications pop in, people ask for our time, and the world seems to whisper constantly that everything is urgent. But here's the truth, busyness is not the same as progress, and activity is not the same as achievement. You can fill your day with motion and still end it feeling empty, because motion without meaning doesn't create fulfillment. To truly win every day, you must learn to focus on what truly matters.
The challenge is not that we don't have enough time. We all wake up with the same 24 hours. The real challenge is clarity. Without clarity, the urgent will always drown out the important. You will always feel like you're racing, but you're not necessarily moving in the direction that counts. Focusing on what truly matters begins with a question, what is essential today? Not everything, not everyone's expectations, not the 100 little fires that will try to steal your attention, but the 1, 2, or 3 things that will make the biggest difference if you direct your energy toward them. Think about how many times you've had days where you checked off 10 tasks, but still went to bed feeling unsatisfied. It wasn't because you were lazy. It was because the things you did didn't connect to the bigger picture. You were running on a treadmill, moving, sweating, exhausting yourself, but never actually arriving anywhere. That's the trap of distraction. To focus on what matters, you have to step off the treadmill and start moving forward on the path that takes you closer to the life you actually want to live. The hardest part about focusing on what matters is saying no. We live in a culture that celebrates yes, yes to every opportunity, yes to every request, yes to every obligation. But the truth is, every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you are silently saying no to something that does. Your energy is finite. Your time is limited. You cannot give yourself to everything and still have space for the things that define your purpose. The art of winning every day is not about cramming in more, it's about filtering with more courage.
Imagine your life as a jar. And imagine that you're filling it with rocks, pebbles, and sand. The rocks are the things that truly matter, your values, your relationships, your health, your purpose. The pebbles are secondary tasks, things that support the rocks but are not foundational. The sand is everything else. The noise, the distractions, the trivial details that demand attention but add little meaning. If you fill the jar with sand first, you'll never have space for the rocks. But if you place the rocks first, then the pebbles, then the sand, suddenly everything fits. That's how life works. When you focus first on the essentials, you discover that you still have space for the rest, but in the right proportion. There's also a deeper question here. What is truly important to you? Many people never stop long enough to ask. They inherit goals from others, chase approval from people they don't even admire, and run after achievements that look good on the outside but feel hollow on the inside. To focus on what matters is to define what winning means to you, not society, not social media, not the expectations of others, but you. What do you want your life to stand for? What are the non-negotiables that give your days meaning? When you answer those questions, your daily decisions begin to align with something much larger than tasks. They align with your identity. When you focus on what matters, you also protect your attention. Attention is the currency of achievement, and yet most people spend it carelessly. Every notification you check, every unnecessary meeting you attend, every distraction you indulge, it all robs you of focus. Protecting your attention means designing your environment so that the important things are visible and the trivial things are invisible. It means turning off the noise that pulls you away from your purpose and turning toward the people, habits, and tools that keep you aligned. Focus isn't just about discipline, it's about design. If you design your day to prioritize what matters, you won't have to fight so hard to stay on track.
There's also a paradox here. When you focus on less, you actually achieve more. Spreading your energy across too many things leaves you exhausted, but unfulfilled. But concentrating your energy on the few things that really matter creates depth, mastery, and impact.
Shallow effort across 10 things doesn't equal the depth of effort across 1 or 2 things. And when you give yourself fully to what matters, the results compound. Small, consistent progress on the essentials grows into extraordinary outcomes over time. To focus on what matters is also to give yourself permission to ignore what doesn't. This is not easy in a world that celebrates constant productivity and endless activity. But winners understand that their worth is not measured by how much they do, but by how aligned their actions are with what matters most. It's not about finishing every task, it's about finishing the right tasks. It's not about being everywhere, it's about being fully present where it counts. So every morning, ask yourself, if I could only accomplish one thing today, what would it be? If everything else fell apart, what is the single action that would still make today a win? That clarity sharpens your decisions. It filters the noise. It transforms your day from scattered motion into purposeful momentum. And when you string together days built on clarity, you don't just win the day, you win the direction of your life.
When people think about discipline, they often imagine it as this massive, overwhelming force, like a mountain that must be climbed with sheer willpower. They picture extreme athletes training for hours, entrepreneurs working endlessly without sleep, or individuals giving up every comfort in pursuit of their goal. And because of that image, most people shy away from discipline altogether. They believe it requires something extraordinary, something beyond what they are capable of. But the truth is far simpler and far more empowering. Discipline is not about giant leaps. It's about micro moments. Small decisions, repeated over time, create extraordinary transformation. Think about it like drops of water falling on stone. One drop does nothing. 100 drops seem insignificant, but 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 drops. They shape the stone itself. That's what micro moments of discipline do to your life. They shape your character, your results, and your destiny. Every time you choose the small act of discipline, waking up when the alarm rings, choosing water instead of soda, writing a paragraph instead of scrolling your phone, you may not notice the impact immediately. But over time, those micro choices accumulate into habits, and habits accumulate into identity. You become the kind of person who follows through. The problem is that we often underestimate the power of these small actions. We wait for the perfect day to start, the big opportunity to arrive, the huge breakthrough to happen. We imagine discipline as a single dramatic event rather than a daily practice. But winning every day isn't about occasional bursts of effort. It's about building a rhythm of consistency, one choice at a time. You don't win the marathon by sprinting once, you win it by putting one foot in front of the other, over and over again. The same is true for life. Discipline is not about the size of the step, but about the fact that you keep stepping. There's a psychological shift that happens when you practice micro-discipline. At first, it feels hard. Every small act requires effort. Saying no to the snooze button, resisting junk food, showing up to the workout. It feels uncomfortable, but the brain is like a muscle. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, you strengthen the part of yourself that follows through. Over time, the very act that once felt difficult becomes automatic. What used to feel like resistance now feels like rhythm. And this is where the magic lies. You no longer have to force discipline, because discipline becomes who you are. Consider this. When someone runs every day, it's not that they wake up each morning with unlimited willpower. It's that they have built an identity around running. It's simply what they do. That identity is forged in the micro moments when they ran even when they didn't feel like it. Those choices compounded until the act became natural. Discipline in its purest form is not about restriction, it's about freedom. Freedom from being ruled by impulse. Freedom from the chaos of inconsistency. Freedom to live in alignment with what you truly want, not what you feel like in the moment. What makes micro moments powerful is that they're accessible to everyone. You don't need to be extraordinary to practice them. You don't need to have perfect circumstances or unlimited resources. You just need to start small. If you can't write a book today, you can write a page. If you can't run 5 miles, you can walk around the block. If you can't change your diet completely, you can make one better choice at lunch. Each micro moment becomes a building block. And as the blocks stack, the structure of your life takes shape. Another thing to understand about discipline is that it is contagious across domains. When you show discipline in one area, it bleeds into others. For example, when you keep the small promise of making your bed in the morning, you carry that sense of order into your work. When you show up consistently to exercise, you carry that resilience into your relationships. Discipline multiplies.
The micro moments you win in one corner of your life become momentum that strengthens you everywhere else.
There's also an important truth about the timing of discipline. Micro moments matter most in the moments of resistance. Anyone can do the right thing when it's easy. The test of discipline is when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unseen. When no one is watching and you choose to act anyway, that's when you're building strength. And that's why discipline feels invisible at first. There's no applause for saying no to the donut or writing in your journal instead of scrolling, but in those hidden moments, you're laying the foundation of a stronger self. Later, the results will be visible, but the real victory happens quietly in those micro choices.
Discipline also protects you from regret. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret is lasting. Choosing to exercise might be uncomfortable in the moment, but choosing to skip it day after day leads to long-term consequences. Saying yes to your priorities might mean sacrificing short-term pleasure, but saying no to them eventually costs you your dreams. Micro moments of discipline are like investments. You pay a small price today, but the returns compound in ways you can't even imagine. And here's the key. Discipline is not about being perfect. And you will slip. You will miss a day. You will make mistakes. But what defines disciplined people is not perfection. It is persistence. They return to the practice quickly. They don't let one missed moment spiral into a lost week. They recognize that discipline is about the long game. Winning the micro moments most of the time is far more powerful than aiming for perfection and giving up when you fall short. Every time you choose discipline in a micro moment, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And the more votes you cast, the clearer that identity becomes. Eventually, you no longer see discipline as something you force, you see it as something you embody. And that's when you begin to live with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. Not because of one big victory, but because of thousands of small ones that built you into who you are. Most people wake up waiting to feel motivated. They hope energy will somehow appear like sunlight breaking through the clouds. They say things like, "I'll do it when I feel ready," or "I'll start when the mood is right." But here's the reality. If you wait for motivation, you will wait forever. Energy is not something you chase, it is something you choose. The difference between those who win the day and those who lose it is not that winners wake up every morning with limitless drive. It's that they've learned to create energy through their actions, not wait for it to arrive. Energy is a decision. It's the choice to show up with intention, instead of waiting for conditions to be perfect. It's the decision to move your body even when you feel tired, to speak with enthusiasm even when your mood is flat, to take the first step even when the path is unclear. When you choose energy, you shift from being a reactor to being a creator. Instead of letting the day dictate how you feel, you decide how you will approach the day. That decision is powerful, because the energy you carry shapes not only your experience, but the experience of everyone around you. Think about the times when you've walked into a room and immediately felt the mood shift because of one person's presence. Maybe they carried excitement, maybe they carried heaviness, but either way, their energy was contagious. Energy is never neutral. You project it with every word, every gesture, every action. And if you don't choose it consciously, you will default to whatever state your circumstances hand you. Winners understand that. They know energy is not about chance. It's about responsibility. They take responsibility for how they show up, regardless of what is happening around them. Choosing energy starts with your body. Your body is the fastest way to influence your state of mind. Stand tall, breathe deeply, move with purpose, and your brain receives signals that shift your emotional state. On the other hand, when you slump your shoulders, drag your feet, and breathe shallowly, your brain receives a different signal. Your physiology shapes your psychology. That's why movement creates momentum. That's why even a few minutes of exercise, a stretch, or a deep breath can transform your state. The body is the switchboard of energy, and when you control it, you control how you feel. But energy is also shaped by focus. Where attention goes, energy flows. If you spend your mental energy replaying problems, your body responds with heaviness. If you focus on possibility, your body responds with strength. This doesn't mean ignoring challenges, it means choosing how to frame them. The same situation can drain one person and energize another, depending on perspective. When you focus on opportunity, even struggle becomes fuel. Choosing energy means asking better questions. Not why me, but what can I learn here? Not what if I fail, but what can I build? Energy grows where purpose lives. Another layer of choosing energy is environment. The people, spaces, and habits you surround yourself with either lift you or pull you down. If you are around complainers, you will feel drained. If you are around builders, you will feel driven. If your space is chaotic, your mind will feel scattered. If your space is clear, your mind will feel lighter. Energy is not just an inner state, it's shaped externally. Winners don't just rely on willpower to stay energized. They build environments that support the energy they want to live in. There's also a myth that energy is unlimited. The truth is, energy must be managed. You cannot give yourself endlessly to distractions, negativity, and obligations and still expect to have energy left for what matters. Choosing energy is not just about generating it, but also about protecting it. Protecting it from people who drain you, from tasks that don't align with your purpose, from habits that steal more than they give. This is why boundaries are essential. Every yes is an energy investment, and every no is an act of preservation. Winners know they cannot afford to give energy away carelessly. The interesting thing is that energy multiplies when you give it intentionally. When you pour your energy into meaningful work, into relationships that matter, into goals that stretch you, you don't end up empty, you end up fuller. Energy expands when it is directed with purpose. It shrinks when it is scattered. That's why the days you spend on distractions feel draining, while the days you spend on meaningful challenges feel alive, even if you worked harder. It's not the amount of work that drains you. It's the absence of meaning. Purpose doesn't just guide your focus. It fuels your energy. Choosing energy also requires you to pay attention to recovery. Energy is not sustained by constant motion. It is sustained by rhythm. Just as muscles grow when they rest after exercise, your energy grows when you balance output with recovery. Rest is not weakness. Rest is strategy. Winners do not burn themselves to the ground in the name of productivity. They understand that recovery is part of performance. Sleep, silence, reflection, and stillness are not wasted time. They are fuel for the next round of action. Without them, your energy collapses. With them, your energy compounds. The most important truth about energy is that it starts before you feel it. Waiting to feel like it is the trap that keeps most people stuck. Action generates energy. Movement generates motivation. You don't wait until you're inspired to create, you create, and inspiration follows. You don't wait until you're confident to take action. You act, and confidence grows. You don't wait until you feel strong to choose discipline. You choose discipline, and strength emerges. Energy follows action, not the other way around. Winners understand this, and so they act their way into energy instead of waiting their way into it. When you choose your energy instead of chasing it, you reclaim control of your day. You stop being at the mercy of moods, circumstances, and distractions. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Every morning you have the opportunity to decide how you will show up, what energy you will bring, and how you will direct it. And those choices accumulate. They shape not just the day, but the life you are building. We often wait for the big moments to celebrate. The job promotion, the marathon completed, the degree earned, the dream finally achieved. Those milestones matter, and they deserve recognition. But here's the problem. Those big wins don't happen every day. They might only come a few times in a year, sometimes just a few times in a lifetime. If you only allow yourself to celebrate in those rare moments, then most of your days will feel like a grind, a struggle, an endless waiting game for the next breakthrough. But what if winning wasn't about waiting for those massive milestones? What if the real key to winning every day is learning how to celebrate the small wins that happen constantly, often right in front of us, but so easily overlooked?
The human brain is wired for progress, not perfection. Every time you recognize a small achievement, your brain releases chemicals that create motivation and drive. That sense of reward is what keeps you moving. Yet too often we brush past our progress without noticing it. You send the difficult email you were procrastinating, but instead of acknowledging the courage it took, you move on to the next task. You complete a workout, but instead of giving yourself credit, you criticize yourself for not doing more. You spend quality time with a loved one, but instead of celebrating the connection, you feel guilty about the work you didn't finish. This constant overlooking of small wins creates a cycle where you never feel satisfied, no matter how much you achieve.
Celebrating small wins is not about arrogance or complacency. It's about fueling momentum. Imagine a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's tiny, but as it keeps rolling, it gathers more snow, becoming larger and stronger. Small wins are the same. Each time you celebrate them, you add energy, confidence, and belief to your journey. That momentum builds until it carries you forward toward the larger goals. Without those moments of recognition, progress feels empty and motivation fades. Think of any great achievement, and you'll find that it wasn't built in one grand act. A book is written one page at a time. A marathon is trained for one run at a time. A career is built one project, one meeting, one challenge at a time. The small steps are the building blocks of greatness. But here's the distinction. Those who celebrate the blocks enjoy the building process, while those who ignore them only see the unfinished structure and feel frustrated. Celebrating the small wins allows you to enjoy the process instead of just enduring it. Celebrating small wins also builds resilience. Life is not a straight line of progress. There will be setbacks, delays, failures, and challenges. If your only measure of success is the big outcome, then setbacks will feel crushing. But if you learn to recognize progress along the way, you create a buffer against discouragement. Even in the middle of struggle, you can point to the small wins, the lesson learned, the effort given, the inch of progress made. Those small recognitions remind you that you are still moving forward even when it doesn't feel like it. Another powerful truth is that small wins shape identity. Every time you celebrate a small step, you reinforce the story you tell yourself about who you are. When you celebrate writing one page, you reinforce the identity of being a writer. When you celebrate completing a workout, you reinforce the identity of being someone who values health. When you celebrate speaking up in a meeting, you reinforce the identity of being someone who has courage. Over time, those small acknowledgments add up to a deep belief in yourself. And belief is what carries you when motivation fades.
Celebration doesn't always have to be grand. It can be as simple as pausing to say, I did it. It can be writing down what you accomplished at the end of the day. It can be sharing your progress with a friend, or taking a moment to breathe in gratitude for what you've achieved. The form of celebration matters less than the act of acknowledgement. What matters is that you notice the progress instead of dismissing it. Too many people sabotage their own growth by telling themselves it's not enough. But progress is always enough, because progress is what leads to transformation.
When you celebrate small wins, you also inspire others. People don't just see your final achievements. They see how you carry yourself along the way. When they see you acknowledging progress with gratitude and joy, they learn that success is not only about the finish line, it's about the journey. Your celebration becomes permission for others to celebrate their own growth. And in a world that often glorifies perfection, that permission is powerful. There is also a connection between small wins and consistency. When you celebrate progress, you create positive reinforcement, which makes you more likely to repeat the behavior. This is how habits stick. A habit that feels like punishment rarely lasts, but a habit that feels rewarding becomes sustainable. Celebrating small wins transforms discipline from a chore into a joy. You begin to look forward to the process, not just the outcome. The beauty of celebrating small wins is that it shifts your relationship with time. Instead of living for someday, you start living for today. You stop waiting for happiness to arrive in the future and start creating it in the present. You realize that the moments worth celebrating are happening all around you, every single day. And when you train yourself to see them, you begin to see life, not as a waiting room for success, but as a continuous flow of victories, big and small, that are already unfolding.
Every day is a fresh opportunity to create victory, not in the distant future, but in the choices you make from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you close them at night. Winning the morning gives you momentum. Focusing on what truly matters gives you clarity. Building micro moments of discipline gives you strength. Choosing your energy instead of chasing it gives you control. And celebrating small wins every single day gives you the joy and fuel to keep moving forward.
When you put these pieces together, you no longer see your day as a random series of hours. You see it as a canvas. And with every choice, every action, every moment, you are painting that canvas with intention. The question is never whether you will win the entire year or the entire decade in one sweep. The question is whether you will win today in the small acts that compound into something far greater than themselves.
The truth is, extraordinary lives are not built in extraordinary moments. They are built in ordinary days where ordinary people choose to live with intention, clarity, discipline, energy, and gratitude. When you win today, and then tomorrow, and then the day after that, you are no longer chasing victory. You are living it.